Believe. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the play ratings for round 13. It has been an emotional, I would say, 24 hours, and tonight is a big night. We've got lots to cover. We will start with this show, the rating show. I've got Pommy with me as always. Hello, my friend.
Hey up, how are we all doing?
A lot of deep breath work needed tonight, I would have thought. I think usually there's a game, it's very rare to have a game on a Sunday night. So if it's a poor loss like what we experienced last night, to come here on a Monday night, 24 hours later is you're still feeling that tension. But nonetheless, we are here.
Mate, we are the pair that never lets you down.
We sure are. So let's get cracking. So welcome once again to the play ratings. What we have done is, what we do with the ratings is we go through each player individually and we grade them, and we grade them against the AFL average for the position that each of them play individually. Pommy has graciously created an algorithm for us, which puts some key points about each player's role based off their position into the algorithm, and it spits out a player rating. So what we're going to do tonight, and then Pommy, you can touch again on the rating system, but what we'll do tonight is for those of you who want to play along at home, we'll give you ratings for each player. Then we'll pull up the player on screen and see how it stacks up and see where the differences may be. So Pommy, have I explained that right? How does the algorithm work, the TPI algorithm?
Hey mate, you have given the perfect algorithm press conference there. Indeed, there's nothing more that I would add. You have nailed it. Yeah, basically, we are trying to find a median to judge these players fairly, and this is probably the fairest system that we can get. So it basically stacks every player versus the rest of the competition in that, so we get like kind of a grade as if you could put Blake Acres in the Melbourne team, or if you put Jordan Boyd in the Eagles team, you would see how we'd expect them to perform. So a good way to think is they start at 5, but think 6 is the pass mark. That's what I want you to think. 6 is where we'd be looking for 22 players. If you had 22 players hit 6, you would finish in the 8.
Okay, so let's do this, because I think if we went off what we all thought with the eye test, we would probably give everyone a 0 except Chera and maybe one or two others. So what we'll do is we'll start with, as the team was named, I'm going to call the players out. Those of you along at home, we'll put your numbers that you would give the player rating, and then we'll see what it spits out. So we'll start with Jacob Wiedering. Pommy, before we get his number up, what just some quick comments on Wiedering's game.
It was an interesting one, wasn't it, from Wheaters? I mean, he was under the cosh a wee bit, but he luckily didn't have to take the problem child that is Mr. Peter Wright, did he? So he kind of probably had the easier assignment out of them all. Interesting. He lost both of his one-on-ones this week. But that being said, he did use the ball relatively okay for himself. But I wouldn't say this isn't a game, in my opinion, by the eye before we did the numbers. I wouldn't have gone home and said, oh my God, I saw Jacob Wiedering today.
Yeah. Fair. Well, I see a 0. I see a 6, a 3, a 6, a 5, a 4, 5.5, 6. So quite a few there. So let's see. 5.5. Okay. So just run me through quickly what were the key metrics for someone in the key defender role that he's in.
So we're looking at his difficulty of disposal. Did he try and get us going? Score launches. You're looking for your intercept marks and your marks. Spoils, and obviously the most important thing when you're a key defender, your matchup, your one-on-one ability. So his opposite man wasn't brilliant, So didn't have a great game. So that kind of helped him out. If his opposite man had kicked 3 or 4, some of them numbers were just verging on his average. So not bad, but not
Understood. Okay. Lewis Young. Chat. What is your rating for Lewis Young? Pommy Lewis from the eye test, just like many of them, seems to be playing with nowhere near the same confidence as last year.
Yeah. He's kind of the player that is fitting what we're kind of seeing on field from the rest of the players, definitely suffering. I stand by my analogy yesterday with you. He's about as close to his opposite man as I am my ex-girlfriends. So we might get them on the show one day and they can tell you what they think of me so you can see how good that relationships are.
So I see a lot of zeros. I see some 2s, some 3s. Let's see what it comes up. A 2. This is one of the lowest scores you get with this system, isn't it? Like, it's very hard to get it. Like, it's borderline impossible to get a 0 and a 10, right?
To get 0, yeah, you've gone hard. Anything below a 3 is question time. He got a few marks just for what he was. He's just raw stats, but yeah, this was a bad game, as bad as they come. If we could do an algorithm for how far away he was from right at times, it could be even worse. But unfortunately, due to what data is kept, he got lucky there.
All right. Next up is Brody Kemp. Chat, what would you rate Brody Kemp? Interesting one for Brody. He had like 17 touches, 4 marks, was one of the 7 players who didn't register a tackle, unfortunately. So I would imagine that might play against him.
It does do. It will play against him. Obviously, he was not playing as defensive in the terms of we're not looking so much at that defensive pressure. He's got more of a free roll down the back. Interesting enough, hit in the second, Voss trusted him more than McGovern to be the primary ball user down the back. So, yeah, interesting one for Brody because a lot of meters gained and a lot of his kicks were deemed in the dangerous factor, the aggressive factor. So he will get bumped up a little bit for that.
Okay. So lots of 6s. I think as we keep going down, it becomes more of a 3, 4, 5s. So Brody Kemp with a 5. So this is kind of neither here or there in terms of impact on the game.
Yeah, so I mean, you look at Brody's just raw. He was getting the meters gained. He was trying his hardest to get Carlton going in some kind of shape as well. A lot of corridor ball as well from him, which is good. But something worth persevering with there. It's a tough role when you're getting battered like that to play that role.
Yeah.
And it would have been nice if he was probably doing this job from the first quarter, being interesting because he attacked the ball pretty well as well.
Yeah. Speaking of McGovern, let's move to McGovern. How'd you see his game? 100th game. He got there in the end. He's now played, I think, 12 games for the year, which I believe would put him in his second most in a season for Carlton after he played 16 in his first season for us.
A very weird game from Mitch McGovern. Very weird. It seems to be the milestone milestone curse, we'll call it. If they get a milestone, he played very safe, and it was shown in his meters gained. That's a weird thing for Mitch because he usually takes the game on. He was really looking for high disposal efficiency this week, and that will go against him. I will warn you.
Yeah. My overall summary of Mitch was just like what we've been saying for a lot of them for a lot of weeks now. Just not enough. So, thus the votes are in. So take your votes and have a look. What do we got?
Hey, TPI so far, not far off you, chat. Hey,
if anything, the chat's a bit generous. Yeah. All right. Next up, Chincotta. kicked a beauty in the first quarter and showed a bit of heart, showed a bit of desire, showed a bit of dare, I thought, for the game.
He did. TPI will love this type of game from him as well. One thing that went against him was the tackles. It could have been a really good game because outside of that, he really did shine. Be interesting to see what Carlton do. We'll talk about it in the next show, but I would love to see one of these tolls dropped and they go a bit smaller and try and mirror Port, because every time we do a preview show together, we always say Port are small, but Port work a way out. Port have got a lot of chincotters who are very good on the deck. That they need the ball on the deck, and then when they get the ball, they can move it quick. So he did well with doing that.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right. The tackles, the no tackles. It's a poor feature of last night. So the votes are in. He got a 5. Not so dissimilar from everybody else. Yeah. Adam Sard. This was an interesting one. I thought, so I did the doing a bit player of the game for the Instagram post, and I picked Chera as our doing a bit player, which has generally now just become the player of the game. And a few comments mentioned Sard. I thought he was okay, Sard, but I didn't think he was probably similar to McGovern for me, where I think maybe the expectation's a bit higher on Sard compared to what he gave us last night. So interested to see what the chat say. What do you say about Sard, guys? And Pommy, how'd you see his game?
Not near where I'd expect to see Sardi, really. He's definitely counted as one of Carlton's primary ball users. A lot of options to move it outside of 50. There was quite a few this week as well. I'm not seeing Sard do it, but a lot of very safe with high risk output touches. So what that means is you are in D50, you're under a bit of shit, and then you take the safe option that results in a tackle or a turnover. And he favoured that a lot. And that's weird because I've never seen Sard do that. Sard, if anything, will usually take the bolder option. So it is a tough one because that is definitely a structural thing with Sard. He's either upset some players and he doesn't get the ball where he wants it, or the structure is asking him to be safe, which is not Sard's game.
All right, let's see. 2.5. Yeah. So what was the big thing that took away from his score, from his rating?
Big things for Sard was his high standard of meters gained and meters per touch. His one-on-ones on the deck. He got beaten quite a few times. A few missed tackles as well from Sard. He did have one, but there was a few tackle attempts as well. And like we say, when you're looking at your halfback flankers, you're looking at the risk reward versus the AFL competition. And these guys take the game on, and Sard didn't this week. And that showed. And it's a harsh rating, I will say. But again, the players that play this position stand out. Yeah. And the fact that none of you gave him a 10 says it. Genuinely, when you do this with other teams, the halfback always pops up.
Yep. And then we've got Sam Doherty. Chat, give you a few moments for Sam Doherty. Doc, what do you think of his game? So difficult. It's so difficult.
Doc, again, we're talking about meters gained. We're talking about risk factor. We're talking about accumulating the ball, intercept possessions, his work on the ground as well. So think when you see his rating, it will be a no-brainer that Doc was better than Sard. I'd imagine chat would agree with me here. He took the game on, took the high-risk kicks. So, yeah, I would say a little bit better than Sard. But again, if you want to win games, one of your halfbacks has got to be in a 7. Has to be in a 7.
Gotcha. All right, let's have a look. 5. Yeah, thereabouts. I think generally speaking, the ratings from the chat were a little lower on average. But yeah, you're right. Okay, Cripps. So what are we looking for from Cripps in his position?
You're looking for all the hard man stuff. So we're looking for pressure acts. We're looking for tackles. We're looking for contested clearances, contested possessions. We're looking for chains that he generates from the midfield. So we're looking for all the things we'd expect a big boy in our midfield to do.
Right.
That's a sneak preview to his rated.
Yeah. Did you see he's wearing something on his ankle? Did you see that photo?
I'd imagine when you're as big as he is and you roll your ankle like that, your ankle would be a bit chafed.
No, but it's like an ankle brace, but there also seems to be something almost sticking out as well on the back of it. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, he's bruised and he's beaten, and by his own admission and Vossi's admission as well, he's just out of form. There was no sugarcoating it from Vossi in the press conference when they asked about him and how he's going, and he just said he's out of form, and it happens, and you just got to back him in, and he does, and it's just one of those situations. Unfortunately, his form has kind of stagnated over the last, probably more so the last 3 games now than the rest of the season, I would say.
Yeah, and the quickest way to piss Uncle Pom off is Cripps has a bad game and go, he's injured. Well, I mean, my answer to you is, why is he there then? Do you know what I mean? Like, why is he there? He's always injured when he has a bad game, but people forget he was injured last year quite a bit. He won a Brownlow, he pulled himself across the line. So,
yeah,
it is what it is. It is what it is.
It is what it is. All right, let's have a look. A lot of 2s, a few 0s, a couple of 1s, a 3. Cripper had a 2.5. Right. Yeah. Next up is Matty Cottrell. Chat, you got 30 seconds, and then I'll bring his score up.
Gave him the Josh Honey treatment.
Well, this is why we bring in the TPI, mate. So it eliminates me from being silly.
So Cotters. So we're looking for wingers here. This is really important especially with Carlton. So with a team that focuses on the wing, we're looking at our wingers, and we should be looking at our wingers as, oh, shit, yeah, this is Brisbane-type football. Our wingers are involved in everything. So this is really halfback and wing, big fucking numbers we're looking for. These are where our 7s and 8s should be. You're looking for meters gained. You're looking for score involvements. You're looking for defensive and offensive positioning. You're looking for running two-way. You're looking for spread. So just think to yourself right now, was Cottrell like Vegemite, spreadable, or was he like a rock? And if he's whichever side you're on, that'll be your rating. Luca, you're pretty good at this, Luca. I tell you.
I did.
Luca, you're starting to work this out, son.
Yes, love it. Let's have a look. 2.5. Yeah. So I mean, look, you can see now. There's quite a few of them. You can't be carrying too many 2s and 2.5s and the like already. We're not even halfway through. So, yeah.
Do you remember when I used to lose my shit about wingers? And people used to be like, play Fisher there, Pom. Oh, why can't Cripps go on the wing? And I'd be like, if you have shit wingers, you're shit. That's what happens. If a winger doesn't perform, oof, it looks bad.
Yeah, it looks poor. Yeah. Sam Walsh is next. I didn't realize he had 35 possessions until I checked the stats after the game, if I'm honest with you. And he got caught as well. He got pinned. It's just uncharacteristic of him, and it's started to show in the last 2 weeks. I wouldn't say he played a poor game, but he certainly is not the same guy right now. And he looks to be suffering from it, we'll call it.
If only we could find out what it was.
If only we knew what it was. But yeah, he definitely seems to be suffering from it.
Tough game from Walsh. Did spend a lot of time out wide. Interesting enough, when he was out wide, he found a lot of the ball and was quite industrious with the ball. It was when he went on the ball, Eddie, you're on the right path there. There was very limited pressure acts. Most of his pressure acts this week were actually on the wing. Interesting that Carlton tried that, because I've been calling for it for a couple of weeks. Free him up. You saw Zach Merritt go forward. Quite traditional when you're a coach and your good players don't play well. You put in a little bit of an easy position to get in the game. We don't genuinely do that. So interesting for Walsh, but had a lot of the ball. And genuinely, when he did have the ball, he was involved in a lot of link-up chains, but still not 100% Walsh. But
Yeah.
I reckon you're seeing the worst of Walsh at the moment, which just shows you that he's in a pretty good area, really.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it doesn't suffer from a lack of effort or trying. The 0 tackles for me is the big outlier. It's not a characteristic of his game that I've seen too often. So let's see what comes up. Sam Walsh, 5.5. Interesting. So where did he gain and where did he lose? Obviously, the tackles he probably loses because he didn't lay a tackle. But his meters gained was probably a tick. It was at 355. And I mean, he won a lot of the ball. Maybe didn't use it as well, but still won a lot of the ball.
I mean, you summed it up. I mean, he took his goal well. Sorry, I mean, he used the ball fairly well.
Yeah.
At 80%, he was involved in a lot of the link-up chains as well. Some decent numbers as well for his position on ground ball gets. The difficulty level of some of his kicks was very high as well. The 3 score involvements all coming from the wing. And the pressure act numbers always are a very good outlier. I'm not a big fan of tackle numbers,
right?
Because I think you've got to also look at the pressure acts and see, because you actually find pressure acts affect a lot of kicks. Carlton, people laughed at me when I talked about when I talked about Laverde and players like that Carlton could come across.
Yeah.
Weaker players, Schnelling, I talked about. They are the kind of ones that affect teams, pressure acts, and that was it. But he got involved in everything. So, I mean, 5.5, though, for a midfielder is very poor.
Yeah. Next up was Matty Owies. He kicked the 1 goal. He had the 10 touches. He laid the 3 tackles. He had 7 contested possessions. So what's he defined as when it comes to role, and what are we looking for here?
He has probably got the easiest role at Carlton in the terms of that he's playing as that archetypical tackle. He was actually incidentally our deepest forward all game. So like that's sink in. Like, in fact, you could actually class Kerno up until the 3rd quarter. He was almost a wing by his average position, which is concerning. Not where I'd play a Brownlow medalist, but I am not an AFL coach. However, you're looking at defensive forward numbers, particularly with him, which incidentally he did do very well at.
Right. All right. I see a lot of 4s. I see a lot of 5s. I see some 2s and some 3s and some 2.5s. Let's have a look. Matt Owies. 6. Right. So where's he gone? So what's he been rewarded for the most?
Tackles inside 50. 3 of them, 2 of them resulting in turnover as well.
3 tackles inside 50. Yeah, wow. I think.
I mean, 2 of them actually resulting in turnovers as well, which Carlton didn't monopolise on, unfortunately for him. But 6 score involvements, that was one of the best on the ground as well. Brought players into the game. Was one of the few forwards to take any marks on the lead in the forward half as well, which is that. But as a small forward, people may disagree with that. As a pocket forward, that is something that you are looking for all game. You're looking for your keys to contribute and someone else.
Fair. Charlie Curnow kicked, I think it was 3 behinds in the first quarter. And it kind of continued the trend. How'd you see Charlie's game, Chat and Pommy?
If we're judging him as anything else other than what he was actually there for, Charlie Curnow, as a pure out-and-out goal-kicking threat, probably would have scored quite well. But you look at his game here, it was a very weird game. And this one here, we've got to look at Voss. But we talked about marks on the lead. We're looking for a lot from a player of his caliber. We're looking for chances created, execution. very, very low from where Charlie was, but it was passable because of the amount of opportunities he created. But it's a weird one because he's had to work hard for these stats.
Yeah. What were they in the end? What's he finished with? He's had the 17, taken 5 marks, another one that didn't lay a tackle, and then he's kicked 2 goals, 4. Yeah. Yeah. So, chat, what do you got? A lot of
what is quite interesting, though? Eddie's nailing it as well. It had a lot of meters gained. He got really into Carlton's transition, but it is a worry when Charlie is the one who's trying to kick the ball forward.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. 5. Yeah. Pretty much right on there. Jesse Motlop is next. Young Jesse. He's battling, isn't he? A lot of them are with their decision making. That's how I summed up Jesse's game.
Yep. So Jesse has a little bit of an easier job than Owies because he gets a little bit of credit for the freedom.
Right.
Freedom of playing up at high half forward is his average starting position. But here you're looking for kind of what you all complained about. And I know Josh Aaron's having a moan, as he usually does. That's good and productive. Ironically, about as productive as Jesse Motlop. But you're looking for what Owies did score launch wise and marks on the lead. We're not expecting them from the pocket. We're expecting them from high forward. So just be prepared for his rating.
Interesting. All right.
Be prepared.
Wow. Okay. There you go. Yeah. So where did he suffer from the most? Because this will be the lowest one that we've seen under this system.
This is officially the lowest rating we've had on this.
Wow.
Bear in mind that you start at a 5. So remember that. So you're trying to then compete with everyone else playing your AFL role. So what you're looking at here with Jesse is a great comparison. Bailey Fritsch, looking at the GPS data as of today versus Collingwood, almost mirrored his starting position around the ground. So look at the difference. But you look here, Jeepers, his game was very limited defensively, no link-ups in scoring involvements as well, which is a very big shock for someone like this. So it's a worry. It's a worry because he looks really lost. Lost. He doesn't actually know what he's meant to be doing, I don't think.
Yeah, fair. All right, the next one is Harry Mackay. Chat, what do you think? I had a thought about Harry's game last night. Has he lost a meter or 2 meters or 3 meters in the length of his kicking? It's bizarre. Harry, I think of Harry and I'm like, he can kick a goal for 50 meters or even 60 meters. Has he lost a few meters on that kick? Or is he just not kicking through it as freely?
Felt like there was a lot of snatches when you watched him do it. From a biomechanical point of view, when you watch him kick, it feels like he's snatching at it. He's like trying to force it almost, where even Charlie did it a few times this week as well. There was a few of them, them worm burners coming from Charlie, which usually when he runs inside 50, he has that big roost, and it's almost in the goals from 65. Yeah. He had a few ones. It's a weird one. I think Eye of the Moment nails it, a bit tentative.
Yeah.
Feels like he's cozying it.
Yeah. He's tight. A lot of them are tight. All right. So 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. All right. Let's have a look. Wow. 2.5. I mean, I think if we put all of these together, do we have a photo of all of them for the end?
I sent you it.
You did. I'll get it.
I can make one now.
All right. I'll manage the chat. Chat, how you going? Next up, Jack Martin. Good to have Jack Martin back in the side. I don't know. Was he subbed for an injury or was he subbed as a tactical sub? Because in my view, from what I was watching last night, he might not have had the most impact, but I thought he gave us exactly what we needed from his position last night before he was subbed out. So I'm not sure what happened there.
we can only speculate on what's wrong with him. In the terms of he looked disconsolate in the bench, and he was rubbing his thigh quite heavily, I noticed. And whoever came and talked to him, he kind of like did the whole nod and pointed down. So that's only me speculating from watching the replay 3 times.
Okay.
Right. So it's a tough one to tell you. I don't know. Could have been game fitness. But if people look at what a high half forward does, he did his job in the terms of being the link conduit man. You could see he was a little bit rusty with his goal kicking, which he's a very confidence-based player. 3 shots at goal could have been so much more. Quite didn't get there. It was an interesting one because that's what he should be. That's what he should be doing. That's what high half forward should be doing. It's weird though that Carlton played 2 because Motlop was doing the same job. Genuinely, you play one that's defensive, one that rolls up higher. So that's genuinely the rule of all 18 clubs.
Interesting. All right. So I see quite a few 4s, 3s. I see an 8 here. Let's see. Jackie Martin. 4.5. Fair. All right. Next up is Tom de Koning. Chat, what do you got? Tom de Koning. They played a few games, the Bombers, didn't they? They kept the Andrew Phillips card close to their chest until right before the game and surprised us with that one. I mean, I'm not sure how much the club knew. I'm sure they probably did know that it was an option. But, yeah, ended up rucking against Draper and Phillips with, Jack helping him out. What did you make of Tom's game?
He battled.
Yeah.
He battled. A lot of uncontested marks spilled. 7 marks spilled.
Yeah, that's
5 of them are declared uncontested as well. Yeah. So these are 5 marks where you would assume he would take. Believe it or not, there is some people out there in the world as well who say play Tom de Koning centre half back. Some people in chat, Josh, saying that I'm being too positive, but I hate getting beaten. Playing him at centre half back, I'd fucking really be sad. Yeah, he had some issues. It wasn't good. Strong on the. I've got to say though, the only way he did score well was when the ball hit the deck. He did show Draper up. If you watch my preview, we talked that's Draper's weakness and that's Phillips's weakness when the ball's on the ground. The problem is he only did that a couple of times. So yeah, it's poor.
Interesting.
It's poor.
All right, let's have a look. 3, probably a little less than what the chat gave him, generally speaking. All right, Adam Chera. Boy, this guy is a shining light at the moment. He's one of the few that just finds a way to stay consistent through all of it. This is a really tough time at the moment, and kudos to him. He finds a way to just continue to play his role, plays tough, plays with a spirit, gets to work. One of the few positives on the night, I thought.
He's an interesting one, Chera. Genuinely, if I don't like a player or I'm not a big fan of a player, I love being wrong. It really excites me. And Chera's shown a side of humble honesty. Remember when he first came to this club and he said he was raring to go for playing for Carlton, big club. It's been a boyhood dream. You kind of get used to hearing that nonsense a bit from players. Tell you what, this guy plays like he was actually telling the fucking truth for once. So I like him. He's a dream for this type of system as well, TPI, because he does everything okay to the standard. This is what's important. So when people are looking at these stats, some people are looking numbers and doing it on a real rudimentary basis, like, as if we're at school. Oh, 5 out of 10, that's a pass mark. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't get A's. When I was at school, I dealt in A stars, and my kids deal in 9 out of 10. That's a dad pass. Anything below that, you've just done okay. Do you know what I mean? And this is how these stats work. So when you watch Chera, one of the most moved players. So Cripps and Kennedy this week had the easiest games because Voss kind of gave them one role. Cherrett and Walsh were pulled here and there quite a bit. And it's quite a hard switch from wing to on the ball, as opposed to what you see other players who play maybe 20% on the wing, 80% on the ball. Carlton are kind of 50-50. And that's a real big culture fuck when you're doing under the cosh in the centre. So he did pretty well. So you'll see that in the ratings. Most people have said Cherrett was the best on ground. Yes, he was.
Here we go. 6.5. 6.5. Ed Kerno. A polarizing name he's become for the Carlton Football Club. Every time he gets named, there's a bit of an outcry. No different this week. I didn't see where he would be playing. I didn't picture a reality where he would come into a game to play on Merritt, because my perception is that Merritt's just too quick for him. It was weird because he didn't lay a tackle, but I thought we got something there in terms of nullifying Merritt. But that was also a little bit more system-based as well. I just found it fascinating that he tagged for the majority of the night and didn't lay a tackle, you know?
Yeah, so what you found with Ed wasn't a traditional tag role. So when you're looking at a tag role, this is more of a run with role. You thought Ed Kerno did very well in the first quarter. When that handball came out of the centre, he got his hands to it and it didn't allow Zach Merritt clean ball. But the structure that Carlton played was so negative that I don't think Zach Merritt could have impacted the game that easy. However, big questions for me when Zach Merritt straight away went forward. Ed looked lost in the centre. Looked lost when he didn't have a defined role. And then the rest of the players looked lost in the centre. And we're going to come on to a gentleman in a minute who I have been a big advocate for in the last 4 weeks of why I don't like negative tactics, because that is what cost us a lot of the game in the midfield. Is a lack of creativity, lack of dimension, lack of real finding something beautiful out of that.
All right. The chat, you've said you put your votes in. Ed, you got a 3.5. Fair. All right. Jack Silvani. We're going to touch on Jack in the Blue Broad show as well. Copped a bit of abuse as well over the fence, walking down. Some nasty things said to him as well. But what do you think of his game? He was in the side, he was out of the side, then he was back in the side, shaved his head. I got a little bit excited by that, but just not enough from Jack. Hasn't been enough all year, has it?
He's a tough.
So what was he graded as? Yeah, what was his role? This is probably one of the issues.
What we tried to do with Jack is make it fair. So we've tried to put him at the high half forward that he played 60% of the time. And then we've tried to give him what we would give the second ruckman who were playing pinch hitting in there, and tried to give him some stats for that. So he's actually graded on double the stats his usual.
Yeah.
Right. But it is kind of hard. He actually did okay in the ruck for where he was based on what he was expected to get. So that's got to be said. That's got to be said something. But when you look at him as a footballer, we're looking at what's Jack good at, right? So first thing people will say to me, and Palmer will lose the plot, effort. Great. They're all professional athletes. That's a non-negotiable, right? But he's meant to be there intent. He's meant to be there trying to get up high half forward. He's trying to get the marks. So did he do well? That's the question. Did he use the ball? I would have given him some worse stats for that kick inside 50 because I've had sleepless nights for that.
Yeah. Let's have a look. Got the 3.5. So let me look at chat. Chat was, they're picking it up, I would say. Matt Kennedy's next. Yeah, the 21 touches. He laid 5 tackles. He led the team in tackles, which is such a weird number to lead the team in when it's 5. Contested possessions, half of his possessions there. I just thought it was a so-so game.
It's a weird one because Kennedy and Cripps couldn't quite get into the game. But then when you watch what Scotty did with Zach Merritt, very clever. Just throw him a little bit higher up the ground. Give him some freedom. Begging Kennedy, begging Sam Walsh to get there, because everyone's done it with both of them, with all three of them. It just feels a weird one. But when he's in there, there's some assurity with Kennedy, isn't there? I feel he's done it 4 times this year, tagged a player, done that run with role. And I think that's his better game, because I actually think he impacts the game when he has a run with partner as well. So,
right.
Okay game from Kennedy. Do you know what I mean? What he sees, he tackles. That's one thing that I like about Matty, is if it's there, he tackles it. And he did it. I thought he did a good job playing against Hobbs and Caldwell, 2 young players. He really did negate their influence, which they've been doing pretty well without Parish with Merritt.
Right. Let's take a look. 5. Yeah.
Not bad.
There or thereabouts with the chat. Blake Acres is next. He's another one. I think he's slowly starting to catch the same tag that I think Noons was catching at certain times. Doesn't do himself any favors with some of the kicking, but yeah, he's struggling as well at the moment in my eyes. Please
don't compare the great Jack Noons, the best looking rig to play in the Blues since Cooter, in the mode of Blakers. Please don't do that. But yeah, see what we said about Cottrell. Wingers you're looking at in the modern day game to really get you going forward, to really keep that width, to really keep it up. Akers was actually rated number 1 by TPI for safest disposals. So let that sink in. And wingers, genuinely, I can tell you, Josh Dacos is usually in the top 2 most dangerous risk factors of any player in the Collingwood side. So he genuinely takes the dangerous ones, genuinely takes the game on. Akers is what I'd expect a back pocket to be, making sure every kick is a target. Weird one.
Weird, very weird. So quite a few 0s, some 2s and 3s. Ultimately, he landed on a 3.5. So there's that. 2 more. We've got Jordan Boyd next, and then Dow. We'll start with Boyd at home, playing along. What did you give Jordan Boyd? What was his role last night? What was he graded as in terms of his role?
He was a pure back pocket, and then interesting enough, Carlton did. People say Voss doesn't swing the magnets. He spent 7 minutes at high half forward, which, if you remember, was the famous Brodie, Paul Brodie. He said he was a pocket forward at Doggies, having the Doggies came out the week before and said, nah, he's staying in the back line all the time. So, yeah, he was that. So what you're looking for there is you're looking for someone that recycles possession and retains possession. You're looking for someone that kind of does a lockdown role, but it's not so important. But you are looking at his defensive numbers. Yeah, it was kind of one of them games that genuinely a good back pocket you don't remember. If you start to remember him, he's had a bad game.
Yeah, that's what I felt about Boydie's game. I don't really remember much of him. So anyway, let's have a look. Got the 4.
Andy, great comparison and great score. Well done, Andy.
Tommy Elvin of 2023. Grit and gives spark. He's learning. Yeah, very good. And then finally, Paddy Dow came on in the 4th. So this is tricky. So what did you do with Paddy? How do you do Paddy? Because I know last week we did points per minute and what it would have been had he played the 4 quarters.
That's what we've done again. I think that's the fairest assessment. If it's half, we will double the scores. We will double the scores. But this is interesting with Dow, right? Joint leader for joint second for tackles.
Right.
Second on his own in tackles resulting in turnover.
Wow.
And if you judged him from all 4 quarters, his disposal was the first most aggressive. It's what I'd expect one of the wingers to be. So let that sink in.
Didn't he? His intention last night, every time he kicked the ball from memory, was to just to put it in a dangerous position. Yeah.
Can I just say,
yeah.
I know everyone's been negative and everyone's been fucking miserable. And trust me, I am Captain King of having a fucking rant at these players. But you know, one thing that does make me fucking smile a little bit, really make me smile, is the fact that Dow is put his ego aside, put all that bollocks aside, and he just fucking has a go. And fuck, if I could inject that into the rest of these players, we wouldn't be so miserable. No ego from him.
Yeah. It's been I must say his situation this year has been impressive in the way he's applied himself. Could have very easily just fallen away and gone through the motions this year. Who knows what the future is going to hold, but fair play to him. Hannah, if you want some scathing assessment, I'll give yourself some scathing assessment for your performance on the fan cams in the chat last night. So you're welcome to reach out anytime you want. Trust me. Paddy Dow. Wow. Wow. Okay. So this is based on points per minute, what it would look like for the 4 quarters.
Yeah. And before anyone says, oh, that's a high thing, it's really hard when you play 18 minutes 59 of a game, right? So it's really hard to judge them. It's a fifth. It's a fifth of the game, right? 20% of the game time. It's hard because any idiot can come on for 20 minutes, right? I'm pretty sure someone in the chat, when everyone's tired, take the game on, right?
Yeah.
But when you're actually judging him as a midfielder, you are expecting what Dow did for 15 to 20 minutes, what all of them do. So a lot of people, when they look at stats, kicking efficiency, most overrated stat. It's something that I see in all the forums, and I actually burst out laughing because no one can tell me what the definition of kicking efficiency is. It doesn't mean hitting targets. So kicking efficiency by the AFL metric is if you just kick to a contest that is deemed over 40 meters away, that counts as a target hit.
Right.
So let that sink in. If you hit it to a contest, it doesn't have to be marked. And as long as it's not turned over, you hit that target, bang, you've got a successful kick. So what we do with kicking efficiency is we judge it with an element of risk associated. So you get, if you kick 10, 15 meters away, back pocket to centre half back, that is actually worse than if you kicked 45 meters to a one-on-one and you hit the target, because that's a dangerous kick. Any idiot in the back half should do it. So all of Dow's touches, aside from his handballs, were dangerous ones. And that's what one of the midfield needs to do. 4 of our midfielders were in the bottom 6 of safety, which is scary because one of them's got to be bold. So fair play to Dow. If you're watching this, Paddy,
fair play to him. Fair play. I have not been a believer of Paddy this year at all, but I think the way he's conducted himself is a tick. So when we look at the overall picture of the team and the ratings, this is what we get. And it kind of paints a picture of, it paints a picture of the game. You can't have so many of these oranges. You can't have so many of these. You can't have any reds almost. You can maybe carry 1 or 2, but there's too many of them just not getting it done. And then when you look at our highest scorers, so in a top 8 side, most of these are green. Most of these are like 5s and 6s. Is that right?
Yeah. So the color gradient is just basically it's working off a 6. But if you were actually going to gamble on TPI,
interesting.
Everything that's red would mean that 5 needs to be 7. So in an ideal world to win, you need to be averaging 6.5 across the board. 7. So just try and think, right? Everyone starts on 5 and then they lose or gain. So you'll get the occasional thing. So people will complain about Owies, number 6, which...
Mate, don't even worry. Some of the...
No, and I'm just saying, I'm going to explain
brain cells, the IQ
it's the easiest position in the world as long as you kick goals and you turn the ball over from tackling. You can do
Right.
that. That's what their role is. Ross, the boss, is adamant. Speaking to Mateus, that's the two things he cares about: tackles, kick goals. Right.
Yeah.
Then you're looking at Young. So for Young with a 2, that means he's got to have Wheater in with a 9.
Right.
And then we'd have to have McGovern and Kemp 6.5, which means the back line's working fluid, means you can do it. So you've got to think everything is, I want you to think of this as everything is like symbiotic. If one gets a 2, someone's got to get a 3 plus 5, 8. Things
Right.
like that. So JSOS, for argument's sake, he can have a 3.5 because he's dependent going down that flank. But Martin needs to be a 6.57 because it means it's gone down the opposite side. Little things like that, just to keep you thinking outside the square, because we get into this position, I think, of Kerno's got to kick 8. But in reality, Kerno can kick 4 or 2 if Owies, Motlop kick 2. Mackay kicks 2. There's 8 goals. 2 goals coming from midfield. There's 10. It's all that little thing. So just up there and down there.
So this picture overall, this is not a good image, right? Like, without knowing what the score was, you look at this, you think this is a losing side for sure.
Wow. I mean, as long as I look at midfield and I see anything below a 5, game over.
Yeah.
It's game over.
Yeah.
Because that's the engine room. That's where you win.
Order with the 10 says, very impressive, Pommy. And that'll do it. That'll do it. There's your play ratings for round 13. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for playing along. The Blue Broad Show is next. We'll get a little bit more deep and meaningful in that one, as we always do. And then after that, we've got the Almost Blues Brothers. So stick around, pour a cup of tea. See you in 9 minutes for the Blue Broad Show. See you guys. Thanks, Pommy.
Peace.